tonight's launch of the Crew 8 mission to the International Space Station. Unfavorable conditions prompted officials to scrub yesterday's scheduled launch attempt on Florida's Space Coast. The SpaceX Crew Dragon Endeavour, atop a Falcon 9 booster, is set to lift off from Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center at 10:53 p.m. Eastern. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
All right, good afternoon or good evening, depends on where you're located at. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Sunday night, we got to bless the show. You know how it goes. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. In the morning time. Good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA radio.com website. So if you got to get out of your car, grab your device, smartphone, laptop, type in KCAA radio.com, or go and download the app. Yes, we have an app. So now we're literally available all over the world, right? Right on your phone. You can listen live. All right. So tonight, shouts out to my Sports Collective's team. They are not here tonight, so this is the Farron Dozier Show, the variety show. So we're going to have some conversations. Might play a little bit of some 4 bars of some music that I want to play, just to make sure we don't get bumped off of the YouTube channels. Yeah. So I'm going to just go right into the public service announcement brought to you by Comigo. I really appreciate them. Again, it may be designed for veterans in this conversation because I'm a veteran. However, human beings, we all deal with these different types of afflictions. Sometimes afflictions are genes that you're born with. Sometimes you can watch too much CNN and cause an affliction of stress. Or it could just be, environmental. People that live in low income areas may experience these type of conditions. But they're human being flaws. This one's dedicated to veterans because we are here in the Loma Linda area. And as a veteran, I know that I didn't want to use any drugs. And so meeting Comigo a little bit over a year ago now has been the true blessing, not just for myself, but for others. So we are hoping to get this into the VA Loma Linda so veterans can pick this over medications by choice, if you have a choice, right? So let's play the Comigo PSA, and then we'll come back. I have some conversations I want to discuss around low mood stress is what I'm going to label it tonight. Low mood stress. And how do we deal with that? How do we manage that? How do you manage it? Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Farron Dozier if you got some questions. If you're watching this from the Sports Collective Media Instagram and you're hanging out with the sports part of the show, you can still chime in because those athletes are human beings. So if you're a parent or you're an athlete and you're still chiming in to listen, that conversation is for you too. We'll be right back on the Farron Dozier Show. Shout us out, what's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Comigo. Comigo is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Comigo decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comigo.com to learn how you can get Comigo through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Jesus came in, he filled my cup. Yeah, I was walking in darkness, I had no light. But I thank you, Lord, you made all things right. Yeah, now I'm living in victory. Devil, he's sick of me. Living by the favor of God, he keep picking me. I know I'm a son, not a slave, I finally get it. Dreams I've been having all my life, I finally did it. We stay winning. God gave us the game plan from the beginning. Walking in the spirit to keep a brother from sinning. Every day is a good day with the Bible as my playbook. Every play is a good play. What should I put this amen right there? I'ma praise him with my hands in the air. I got blessings hitting me from everywhere. Every day, every month, every year. I gave God my cares and I left them there. Favor, it ain't fair. Amen goes right there. Yeah, everybody say.
That song goes out to my engineer. We were talking about God earlier. That's for you, baby. All right, so that's my favorite song right now. Amen goes right there. Shouts out to MC Nice and featuring Canton Jones. You can catch me on the Revolution Radio Show, 5 o'clock on Sundays, but also 7 p.m. on Saturdays. Yes, we got 2 slots over there. So the show airs 7 p.m. on Saturdays, and then again on Sundays at 5 p.m. It's a Christian hip-hop station, God's House of Hip-Hop, powered by Lit Live. It's no longer Dash Radio. It's now Lit Live, and you can catch us over there on God's House of Hip-Hop, 7 p.m. on Saturdays, 5 p.m. on Sundays. Also, you can catch me on MBR Radio Network, military, based out of Denver, Colorado. The Farron Dozier show is also featured over there with a military segment called Trench Talk. So that's my military show. Catch me on Beyond 2D, streaming from the Facebook page, from the YouTube page. Farron and Jessica, Best Beyond 2D, the Breakthrough Show Network. And there we are on Tuesdays, every second and fourth Tuesday is over there. And then what else? My blog talk show is coming back mainly on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, what is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 shows or 4 shows. But yeah, so this first conversation, I want to just share some of my views, my thoughts and concerns of our future as people. Part of the conversations that I've been involved in, of course, I do my sickle cell trait. So if you want information about sickle cell trait, it's a red blood cell condition. I was born with that gene, inherited from my dad. It is not just an African-American black person gene. No, that's the old conversation. That's the myth and stigma about sickle cell trait, that it's just a black gene. It is not. You can be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian descent. The Latin community, Hispanic is number 2 with sickle cell. So, yes, we are number 1 because it combats malaria. So think about it. In Africa, where malaria is present, that's how my ancestors were able to survive malaria, because that red blood cell mutates and it dies off quicker, comes back quicker, and then you have an opportunity to survive malaria if you have 25% up to maybe 45% of your red blood cells are the S trait, right? But guess what? Your ancestors might have a red blood cell condition like thalassemia trait or C trait or D trait or OARAP or Monroe, or you might have your own red blood cell condition that combats malaria from where your ancestors are from, right? So it's not just about sickle cell trait. We're like cousins if you carry an inherited gene that combats malaria. Now, United States, we don't really have a malaria problem. However, there is a lack of conversation that we're still trying to figure. I've been in this advocacy work for 14 years, and they're still saying that a great percentage of women who have children with babies with sickle cell are not aware that they have the inherited gene called sickle cell trait. I want to say those numbers are like 90% of the time. So, in the United States, sickle cell trait, what's so is babies are being born with sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia. I say sickle cell disease because, as I shared with you, those other red blood cell conditions like C trait and D trait and beta thalassemia. So if you have sickle cell trait and your mate has another red blood cell condition, that family can have a child with a type of sickle cell disease, right? As the same as if both parents have sickle cell trait, there's a 25% chance that that child will be born with sickle cell, and then a 50% chance that the child will be born with sickle cell trait. So babies are still being born. People with sickle cell trait like myself are not aware, playing sports. So athletes have died and collapsed from sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdomyolysis and have had cardiac arrest and have died. That's another reason. Also, there's a rare kidney cancer that's connected to sickle cell trait that we're starting to research and find that some athletes that have had sickle cell trait over time from exertion, dehydration, something is causing those red blood cells that when they die off in the kidneys, that the white cells create this cancer, they attack those cells and it creates the cancer. Those are your white cells, right, in cancer. And by the time it's being diagnosed or found, guess what? That person is at stage 3 or stage 4 already. And then they die from that kidney cancer. The most recent we had from professional sports was Ronnie Hillman. He played for the Denver Broncos, and he died last year from that rare kidney cancer with sickle cell trait, directly connected. Why am I squinting? What else? Military personnel, like myself, have collapsed and died from sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdo. I experienced that. I did not die. I was close. Luckily, the doctors discovered what was going on with me, but it wasn't sickle cell trait related. I didn't know that sickle cell trait could cause that, so that's how I became an advocate after I found out that this inherited gene was part of the reason why my military career ended. What else? Yeah, those are like my main points. It is a public health issue for sure. Again, because people are not aware. So the public health issue is that babies are still being born with sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. It's not a bad thing. It's not a right or wrong conversation. It's just more of a health because there is no cure for sickle cell. Now, you might see on the news that they have some stem cells and they have some cure-like kind of things that they're testing today. But that's not universal. And it's very expensive. But mainly it's not universal. But for those that can afford it and that are willing to take that chance, people are doing it. And they have been healed from their sickle cell. However, now that they don't have sickle cell, guess what? They still trait carriers. So now the person is not a sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia patient. Now they're a sickle cell trait because they still have the sickle cell trait gene. The bone marrow is now producing. They edited out that one of those genes. So they're still producing the S trait. So we're going to have more sickle cell trait community members. Right now, there are 300 million people globally with sickle cell trait. United States is about 4 to 5 million or so. So I have a lot of people I need to advocate and reach around this just that conversation. That's my community-related conversation. That's my purpose. But, when I was talking to God about my purpose, and I guess I was born with that. That's what that prayer is. In your mother's womb, we're born for a reason. If you believe that, and you were born with everything inside of you that you need to live this life and possibly be your conversation. Right? So I was born with that sickle cell trait gene. So I believe that that was my gift, and that's why I went through my journey, and then I get to be an advocate and help people understand that inherited gene. But during that time frame, my identity was still, trapped. My identity was trapped. From a basketball player into the new identity was a soldier. And then from the soldier identity, it was into a disabled veteran. And then from the disabled veteran, it kind of skimmed off into the sickle cell trait advocate. And then I just got stuck in the sickle cell trait advocate. But I knew there's still some identity crisis even in that work, because I still didn't know who Farron was. Just so you know, I still don't know. I got a better idea, though. But I'm still peeling off these layers of the essence of who Farron is. But one thing that when I took this conversation to what I believe in my spirituality, being a kingdom citizen, I took it to God, and I read the Bible, and I talked to God, and I prayed to God, and I asked for some revelations, because I was just tired of being stuck in that identity. And what he showed me was that, yes, you have a purpose in life for your activities, but you also have a purpose in life for your experience. And who do you get to be when you show up? So when I'm not being the soldier, I'm not being the basketball player, I'm not being, the advocate for sickle cell trait, when I'm not being on the radio, when I'm not the basketball owner, when I'm not the dad or the grandfather or the ex-husband or the son or the uncle or the brother, like, just who is Farron when he shows up? And what I discovered, that who I get to be is that others see their greatness through my self-expression, and they also get to discover their freedom in language, right? While demonstrating self-forgiveness. And what does that look like? That looks like when I get to show up in life, it's all about how you leave people. You can leave people upset and frustrated, or you can leave people with a level of joy, calmness, they say smiles, things like that. You have the power how you leave people. So after I play this public service announcement, we're going to get into one of the conversations that I want to have tonight more seriously, is about the low mood stress. I believe, I'm not a mental health, doctor, psychiatrist. I have no degrees in none of that mental health conversations, but I know what I experienced, and I know what education that I've taken, and I know what has allowed me to help heal or start my healing process of a lot of things that I've been dealing with for many years. And so I'm able to share that, articulate that. There's some empirical truths. The empirical truth is you just have to look in your life. You don't need to look at Google. Just look at your life experience up against some of these questions or the conversations that I'm going to have with you. And then you can test it for yourself. All right? You can test your human condition and your human experience to see if this is something that you have a version of what you've been dealing with in your life. And so to stay away from that mental health kind of talks and all that, I like mental toughness. Here on the Sports Collective segment, I focus on the mental toughness because I want to hear how athletes are dealing with that. It's a real conversation. But but a lot of times we talk about it, but do we talk from the mental toughness conversation? Do we talk from the experience? Like, do we talk about it or do we talk from it? And I believe a lot of organizations, they talk about it. They make millions and millions of dollars talking about mental health and mental toughness. But yet, not that's going to stop suicides, not that's going to stop people from being depressed. But guess what? There are some tools out there that can surely help if we start to practice these and apply these to our life. So I'm coming back with that topic, maybe another song, see what other song I got over here, and then we'll get back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind. I think I'm going to call this next segment my Fahrenheit segment, playing some of the hottest hits and the coolest conversations. That's the Fahrenheit segment coming up next on the Farron Dozier Show.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia. Not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
About time for a war cry, though. I think there's, I don't go nowhere unless I do the war. We need 1 minute to just kind of change the atmosphere. Just.
This your boy Sam Peasy, Kingdom Saints and Ace and everybody in between. It's time to wake up. I'm here to wake the body 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 up. Preaching, teaching, prophets, preaching, souls that's lost. I'm here to wake the body up. 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 Preaching, teaching, prophets, preaching, souls that's lost.
You might have started in a trap with a sack, cause you was always told that the streets had your back. Well, that's not fact. Can I utilize this track? Tell you how it started, man, we going way back. It started in a garden with a man in his worship. Gave 2 commands, watch it and work it. God felt it wasn't good to be alone. Took from his real, made his house a home. Along came the tempter, started conversation. Theology, there was no relations. But the serpent did something that was flagrant. Went around God and he ignored the statement. Then the eyes of them both came clear. Notice no close, introduction of fear. We returning the keys to the kingdom. Waking up the body, cause it's that season.
I'm here to wake the body up.
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 Preaching, teaching, prophets, preaching, souls that's lost. I'm here to wake the body up.
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 Preaching, teaching, prophets, preaching, souls that's lost.
Got my mind right now, the lights shine bright. I'm focused, man, ready for a holy fight. That Paul and Silas got me gigging, high stepping on them. Devil at my back because he know what team I'm repping for. God talk, squawk box, be the conduit. Joyful noise, praise the Lord, screaming, won't he do it? Come through, Judas, your nuisance, infiltrate the crew. Ruthless, useless, he still rose, thought you knew. Woo! I hear you talking now, spirit. Shine the light on my path, I'm dancing all in it. Praise back with conviction, yep, it's authentic. Celebrate the pearly gates, yep, we all win it. Forgive my sins and stride into my best life. To the end, pleasing God with my every try. To the darkness, leaving you with my last buys. My, time for a war.
I'm here to wake the body up. Shouts out to Alabama Cash and Bonebreaker Jones, Sam Peasy. I got an interview with them. Y'all need to go and check that out for real. Type in my LinkedIn and just go to Farron Dozier on my LinkedIn and you'll scroll down there and see that conversation. Powerful conversation with those gentlemen. All right, so we're back. The Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Make sure you go get the app. Even if you got to get out of your car and go in your house, you can grab your laptop, your smartphone. Type in kcaradio.com, or more conveniently, just download the app and you can listen to us right there from your devices. All right. So let's talk about low mood stress. What does that look like? What does that mean to you? I posted on my Facebook. I don't think anybody responded on my Facebook because it was kind of short notice, but I just wanted to figure out this conversation. This is important because I believe, I've had stress, growing up. A lot of times I left my stress on the basketball court. That was my outlet. But something about that military career, depression, was a little bit different. That anxiety was a little bit different than I ever experienced. But before all of that, let's talk about what is low mood stress? What does that look like for you? Do you ever feel incomplete? Like there's something missing? Like there's something wrong? Like I'm on my own? I don't belong? How does life show up for you? Does life show up for you as hard, challenging, a struggle, dangerous? Like if you listen to how people talk, if you really listen without reacting, you can hear what people are dealing with in their life. I remember when I discovered what mine was. Mine was life was exciting, fun, and dangerous. And those can show up at any given time. Any given time. More so, the dangerous showed up in relationships because that's where it was tied to. Remember, I was in the military. That was not dangerous. I ride motorcycles. That's not dangerous. I do a lot of things in life that for some is dangerous, and for others, like myself, that's not dangerous. So how do you behave when you feel incomplete? How do you react to that when you feel like there's something wrong? Not that there's something wrong outside of you. I'm talking about that there's something wrong inside of you, like where you are. There's something wrong with you. Or how about that experience of I'm on my own? People say that they feel lonely in a crowd. Like that's a real experience. But do we discuss where that's coming from? Have you even thought about where it's coming from? Have you thought about what it feels like when you feel like you don't belong? And I believe that one right there for me is the biggest issue discussion that's missing today. You can point to social media. You can point to the suicide numbers today currently. You can point to why families don't get along with each other. You can point to why some people say that they're the black sheep of the family. You can point to that where people feel like it's a black and white issue or Asian and Hispanic issue. You can point to where the people who stormed the Capitol issue. You can point to slavery. You can point to all these second-class citizens that came to the United States fleeing from their countries with those emotional wounds that they brought here with their own families. Like, just pick one. Pick one. Political parties. People are even fighting with each other about a basketball team that they don't even own. That they want to belong to something. So to the point where they'll take on a team jersey for that sense of belonging, and they will kill another fan on the opposite team. Or sometimes that I don't belong is becomes of how we have our opinions about ourselves. And maybe not just opinions about other people, but what about those opinions that you have about yourself? Could your own opinions make you feel like you're incomplete? Your own opinions of yourself. And maybe that the people around you or the people that you listen to or that you call haters or you don't like, that because they can point out those things about you and they are true about you is why you don't like them or why you you have a problem with them or you want to fight them or they're a hater because they're actually pointing out something about yourself that you agree with yourself, but you don't say that. You don't say it out loud. See, sometimes that people say stuff about us that's true about us because that's how we feel about ourselves. And then we fight them because they're right. But you can't be right because that'll make me look bad. So I got to look good. So I want to belong. But these are some opinions that we have about, not just about, we're not talking about people. We're talking about what opinions do you have about yourself that you don't say out loud, but when you look in the mirror, that mirror tells you, you see the reality. You see what you say your reality is. You see what you say about yourself when your mouth is closed. When your mouth is closed and that voice is telling you who you're not or who you are or what you can or what you can't do. That's that voice. That's not you. Do your research. There's a lot of education out there. There's a lot of information out there. We offer some of this kind of conversation as a curriculum. I'm bringing it to the Inland Empire. I live it. So wherever I show up, that conversation is there. That's who I get to be when I'm just Farron. So what opinions do you have about yourself that get in the way of your own, like how you feel about yourself? Do you have conversations about things that are true or false about yourself? Like when you self-examine yourself, or when you're sitting there, again, with your mouth closed, and that voice in your head is talking to you about your past experiences, about your decision-making process, about how you don't make good decisions, or you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, or whatever, however you describe that danger when the danger shows up. Because it's usually one of those, when life is hard, when life is struggling, when your happiness is connected to your circumstances and worries and concerns. These opinions come up about yourself. Do you deal with being true and false about who you say you are? Do you battle with that in your mind? Is that enough to create a level of low mood stress where you experience like this incomplete funk about yourself? What about trust and distrust? You know, something I learned about trust, you know, we're not supposed to trust people. The Bible even says that. Put your trust in the Lord, but it's about having confidence in people. So you're not supposed to trust another human being. It's not about trusting another human being. It's about how much confidence do you have in another person. See, because we're all flawed. So we're not supposed to trust another person. But it seems like that's the label that we use in how we language one another, is I don't trust you. But the truth is, I don't trust myself 100% either. So then if I don't trust myself, then why would I put all my trust in you? You see what I'm saying? You see how that doesn't go together? But even with confidence, even if I don't have confidence in you, I could still look at myself and say that I honestly don't have confidence in certain areas of my life either. So if I lack confidence as a person, why would I ask for you to be confident in me completely, 100%? That's not realistic. We don't trust people 100%, and we definitely don't have a lot of confidence in people either, because people are flawed. Human beings are flawed. If you understand that and you really tell the truth about that, about yourself, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all have some flaws. But we pretend like we don't. And that's what's hurting us today in this low mood stress, is that we're pretending like we don't have any flaws in public. But we go home, or we sit in our cars, or we do whatever we do in silence, and that subconscious mind is just giving you the rundown of all the stuff that you ain't, that you can't do, that you're not this kind of person, and you question who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, and like That's the conversation that we need to have. And we need to have this conversation early. Early. We're starting it with third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, adults. Like, this conversation has to be had. If we can make that correction with our elementary school and middle school, high school students, guess what? When they grow up to be adults, they're not going to have some of these issues. Or they'll have them, but they'll have the ability to think through them with some principles and some tools that some of us may lack. I know I lack them. That's why when I found them, I'm like, whew, I got to tell them, because I know where I've been and what I've been dealing with, and I do not want to leave anybody in the dark. But do you ever ask yourself why? You have a lot of questions about why. What about how? You ask yourself. I'm talking about when your mouth is closed and that voice in your head, because you are the one that's observing that voice talk. Just so you can separate your spirit and your soul. That's the difference. When your mouth is closed and you hear that voice talking, the view of you hearing that voice, that's you. That's not the voice talking. That's not you. Get some education. It's out there. You got to separate that voice. That's your subconscious mind. That's your heart. That's where you have all your heart-to-heart conversations at, in your subconscious mind. That keeps us alive. It survives. It's keeping us to survive life. Sometimes we get some bad information down there. So we can survive these kind of emotions of being incomplete or feeling like we're incomplete. That we feel like we look bad because we have proof that it happened before in the past. Because sometimes we talk and our language is a trap because how we talk. You know, we have a conversation around hidden agendas and how to discover hidden agendas, right? And sometimes the hidden agendas are things that we have expectations of other people, because in order to get something from you, I'm going to do this. So there's an in order to conversation that we have that we don't have that are attached to expectations. So I'm going to do this in order to get something from you. And then if I don't get that from you, when I do what I do, then you don't support me, or you're not my friend, right? And then so we throw it back at that other person. But it's really us doing these things to ourselves instead of being honest about how we want to talk to people or communicate with people. In order to. But you got to tell the truth, though. You know what they are. We do those in order to look good, to not look bad. So that we can belong. Because we really just want to belong. And I want to belong in this family with all of my flaws. Accept me for my flaws, but you don't accept yourself with your flaws. You don't even accept yourself completely. How much do you accept yourself? Put a percentage on there. That's cognitive behavior right there. CBT. Take that class. They talk about CBT. Talks about exaggerated conversations, exaggerated thoughts. And sometimes we talk exaggerated. But you have to challenge that story up against something that's outside of your own belief system. Outside of your mind. Because you're always going to be right about yourself. It's always going to look right in your eyes. Because that's how you survive those moments. So they're always going to be wrong. But what percentage do you trust yourself? What percentage of confidence do you have? Right or wrong, man, that is enough to destroy society. An opinion about who's right and who's wrong is enough to destroy society. It has pushed us so far apart as a people of who's right and who's wrong based off our opinions. It's not even about the facts, because facts can change. So we can't even base a lot of this stuff on facts anymore, because do a little bit more research, and now that fact can change. But what is the original truth? What can we agree on that's the original divine, across the board truth? A lot of those laws that we utilize today in society, those came from the Ten Commandments. So how do we believe the Ten Commandments laws, but we don't believe there's other stuff that's in the Bible? How do we believe some of the Bible, but not all of it? I believe all of it. If I believe the Ten Commandments came out of there, do you know that the medical logo with the snake around it, that came from the Bible? And they still use that as their logo today. So if the principles and the laws came from the Bible, and we apply and we live by those laws, then why can't we believe everything else that's a divine law in there? That's up to you. It's not for me to dictate. I'm just telling you where it's coming from. I'm saying that these conversations of feeling incomplete, that there's something wrong, that I'm on my own, and I don't belong, can come from a state of a low mood stress. Do you know what it feels like to feel like you don't belong? You know, people are taking their lives because they feel like they don't belong, that there's something wrong with them, that they're on their own. I know what that feels like. I know what that tastes like. I know that emotion. I know that feeling of being lost and being in disappointment and being in despair and feeling hopeless with a dash of hope. But ultimately that low mood stress looks like self-loathing. That you can be high and feeling great the first half of the day, and then all of a sudden at some point in the daytime, you are down in your emotions and your feelings because of what? Because your subconscious mind reminds you that you're not good enough, that you're not worth it, because you have evidence of making bad decisions. Guess what? It's not the decision that you made. It's the unforeseen consequence that you didn't foresee when making that decision for a reason. So you're stuck in the reason, not in the decision. Now, if we do that as adults, what do you think our children is doing? What do you think they're doing? Trying to survive their peer age. Trying to survive their relationship with their parents. Tell the truth. Tell the truth about how you feel about your mom and dad. That's where your freedom is at. You don't have to love them every day. That's not realistic. But it's how you think about them in your heart, in your subconscious mind. I love my parents, but they get on my nerve. Then you got to find out, what is that about you? What does that get on your nerve? Why is my mom crazy? Why you say that about your parents? Nobody's going to say I can't stand I hate my mom. Some people do. Some people are bold like that. Most of us won't say it out loud. We think about it, though. So you imagine if a child is dealing with that, and then they're trying to figure out their identity and dealing with their low mood stress and their sense of belonging, and if there's something wrong with me, I don't belong, I'm on my own. Any one of those three. Imagine if you got just one of those. Some people are dealing with all three of those. I dealt with all three. People are taking their lives, y'all. One thing about even about suicide, as an advocate for veteran suicide and youth suicide, I also have to answer this question to myself so that I don't get frustrated or mad or angry or disappointed. Because we get no say-so when, where, why, or how people die. We only get an opinion about it. We get no say-so. I got no say when my dad died. I got no say when my friend in the military committed suicide. I had no say in that. I have no say when my best friend's son took his life a few years ago. I got no say in that. Opinion. That's all I got was opinion of how I felt about it. But I can no longer just act like it doesn't happen. And so there's a conversation that I need to have, and I'm going to have it. Riverside County, San Bernardino County, LA County, Ventura County. When I show up, that's what I'm talking about. If we don't give our children the opportunity to start to heal these episodes when they're younger, then what do you think it's going to look like when they're 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 years old? So I'm not here to talk about low mood stress. I'm here to talk from it. I'm here to share my experience. I'm here to share the education. So if you say you care about youth suicide, if you say you care about veteran suicide, we're going to find out. And I know everybody doesn't care about that. Everybody's not going to care about what you care about. I already learned that in my sickle cell trait awareness conversation. I already know that's not for the world. I already talked to God about it. These conversations for those that are willing to do the work. See, you have to be willing to follow Christ. You have to be willing to listen to see what the Bible has to say. You have to be willing to look at your life to see where your faults are. It's willing. You got to be willing. If you're not willing, then it's fine. If you're not willing to look at veteran suicide and youth suicide and help solve some of those conversations, that's fine. We'll move on to the next conversation. But that's how important it is. And so I'm not going to let that go. We have a curriculum that's proven that we're going to bring to the table, and we're going to offer it, and we're going to share it. And for those that are willing to be a part of this conversation in the Riverside County, in the San Bernardino County, in the Ventura County, and in the LA County. Those are the 4 counties that I'm connected to right now. And so I'm not asking the schools to pay for it. You know, if you have a business and you care about that conversation, you can help us give it away to the students for free. You can help us give it away to the parents so that we can reconcile our families, our fathers. It's not just about black men. I'm not going to even... Men, period, have identity crisis. I'm a black male, yes. Our culture has the things that we deal with. No different from the different backgrounds of the white community. Because remember, they're different. They're not... The skin color is white, but they're different backgrounds of that skin tone. Jewish, Polish, German. There's a different background that they're all men in those conversations. So I'm not just labeling it as a black man, no. I take care of the black community, for sure. I'm a black man. But this conversation is for humanity. It's for human beings. It's not a color. It's a condition. So whether we take care of veterans, there's all different races of veterans. We take care of our children, our families. That's our community. That's our society. So 2024, it's just going to be a different talk. I might have to go somewhere and, watch a comedy show or something, because a lot of stuff I talk about is serious. It's serious discussions. And I have to have my outlet. And maybe it'll be a comedy show or something. But this low mood stress, this mental toughness, these conversations are what we can have before we get to the mental health, so that people can figure out what kind of service that they need. It takes confidence. It takes courage to say that I need some help. I had to go back and challenge my first 40 years and go back and tell the truth that I made up some stories that wasn't true. But I didn't look bad doing it. I took responsibility. I owned my past with confidence. So I don't feel bad telling my story. I'm free. Because I own it. Because I made it up. A lot of the stories that I made up about my situations, about my peers, about my age and my parents and my friends were all made up stories. It wasn't the truth. It was my truth, but it wasn't the truth. I was never alone. There was never nothing wrong with me. I always belonged. But those key incidences as a child, as an adult, that I collected as evidence and proof that I was on my own, the proof that I didn't belong, the proof that there was something wrong. Guess what? When I put those stories up against those different principles and those different educations, guess what? I could no longer say that they were the truth. They were my truth, but they wasn't the truth. So we have a conversation for athletes. I call it I and team, low mood stress. I'm just going to label it. Goaltenders.org is the organization that I'm a part of as well. EQ Athletics. My Sickle Cell Trait Foundation. The Riverside County Mavericks. The Ventura Orcas. The Santa Monica Sharks. The Norwalk Knights. Those are the ABA basketball teams I'm a part of. Those platforms are going to house this conversation because I'm a part of it. So I'm not going to let those just go. We're going to take on some other stuff too. But when Farron shows up, best believe Farron is talking about this conversation right here. And I'm listening. Because people are dealing with all kinds of things. You just never know who needs to hear something. Who needs to hear what they're saying about themselves out loud. All right. It's important. May not be important to you, but I sure ask you to self-examine yourself tonight up against these conversations about how you feel about yourself and what opinions you have about yourself. The hater in your life is your subconscious mind. It's not people. People are not our problems. It's your own mind sometimes that gets in the way. Hit me up at Farron Dozier, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Sports Collective Media. Just Google my name. You'll find how to reach me. All the conversations are out there. See you, hear you next week. Shout out to Southwest Account, the Farron Dozier Show, KCA Radio. Peace.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code. Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comago.com to learn how you can get Comago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
KCAA.
Hi, this is Graham Smith, and I'm running for County Supervisor in District 3. I know you're getting inundated with messages about the election, so I'll keep this short. If you want a supervisor who won't waste your tax dollars, who will be a watchdog over the $10 billion county budget, who understands the danger of relying solely on warehouses to keep our economy going, and who isn't taking donations from corporations or sitting politicians, vote for me. Graham Smith for Supervisor in District 3. I've worked for 20 years in finance and business.